Welcome to
Parsec Passion,
a podcast about Disney Plus's Star Wars shows. My name's Bubba, and with me, as always, is someone who's preoccupied with the debauchery of Hutt. It's Catfish.
Oh, thanks, Bubba. Oh, my goodness. It's always a pleasure to pod with someone who fears no man, but perhaps a few women.
Edit. Hey.
I want to thank you, Bubba. By the way, all those years you referred to me as Lizard Brain, I thought that was a diss. Turns out, maybe it still is.
Let me tell you, last week I kept making jokes about Boba going to Burning Man. This is something you do at Burning Man, is you put something up your nose and you have a crazy dream.
Hell yes.
Hey guys,
and then you dance around a fire all night. I mean, this is totally Burning Man.
I love it. Hey, today we're breaking down Season 1, Chapter 2, The Tribes of Tatooine, or as it's also known, Throw Boba from the Train.
Yeah.
Or New Threats, New Threads. Directed by Steph Green and written by Jon Favreau, score by Joseph Shirley, and I wonder if our buddy Double M, Matt Murdock, will be talking about that in his musical analysis section coming up. Hey, Catfish, there was a wide range of opinion on that first episode of the Book of Boba Fett. Okay. You were really high. What rating do you give to Chapter 2?
Well, Bubba, I got to tell you, I don't know why it didn't come up last time.
Okay.
But, you know, as people know who have been listening to Parsec Passion, you have a lot of knowledge, in-depth knowledge about the Star Wars universe.
I try.
I come to it as if I'm a babe in the woods, partially because I just watched the movies. Second of all, because anybody who knows that I have the long-term memory of a dog.
That's insulting to dogs.
I've got some what I like to call double C's tonight.
Ooh, double C's.
Yeah, catfish questions. So I'm going to put my rating on the double C scale because I have a bunch of catfish questions. They're questions that you might have the answer to, having some knowledge of the Star Wars universe, or maybe they're questions that aren't answered yet. So I'm going to act like a babe in the woods that I am, and I'm asking catfish questions tonight. So I'm going to give this episode 5.5 double C's out of 10.
Whoa, you are going down from a real high of 9 something down to 5.5. That is Penny Dreadful City of Angels level rating. What happened?
Well, Bubba, and again, this is as kind of a babe in the woods. I know, they're doing this show because Boba Fett became this phenomenon.
Oh, yeah.
And so probably a whole bunch of people who are watching the show are like, yes, give me all of the Boba Fett flashbacks. Do I care about Boba Fett's past?
Is that a catfish question?
Yeah, that's the only catfish question I have the answer to. And the answer is, hell mother flippin' no, I don't give a crap about his past.
Oh, no.
I want to know about the future.
Right.
I want to know about the present.
Right.
The only thing I do know based on this episode is that the Sand Raiders are horrible at hiding in the desert. They live in the desert. You think they would know how to hide? No, these suckers get shot like there's no tomorrow. They're horrible at taking cover.
Catfish, I have an impersonation. Are you ready?
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
So this will be. I'll have to do the impersonation and then the translation, if that's okay.
Okay, please.
So you're at the Dune Sea, Tatooine, exterior Dune Sea, Tatooine. The dangerous train of spice is coming across the sand. Mm-hmm. We see the Tuskins on a sand dune. Hey, everybody. There it is. Jump up and so you can see it. Wave your hands to tell it to go away. Higher, higher.
Yeah, what's that they're pointing at us? Are they welcome sticks? Oh, they mistakenly hit us with the fireworks they're celebrating our arrival with.
Ooh, that is tough. Yeah, they lost a lot of people. They got a train, they got some water, which they wasted. and some other things. But hey,
I mean, you say they lost a lot of people, and based on the evidence that I saw throughout the episode, they lost a lot of people, and yet by the end, it seemed like they had the same amount of people in camp that they had when they started.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Consistent population. That's important. Hey, Catfish, I'm actually sticking with the same rating I gave last week, but admittedly on a different scale.
Because you hate it when I mess up, when I make my rating alliterative.
This week, I'm giving it 7, what I like to call double G's, triple T's out of 10.
Double G's, triple T's?
Well, double G's is great gangsters. I love the storyline in the present. I'm like you. I'm excited about it. Admittedly, the triple T's are troubling Tusken troubles. In that I'm like you. The flashbacks, they have moments of fun, and I'm going to try to celebrate those, and moments that are trippy, like the lizard dreamscape we went on. But I am more interested in the present than in the past. Now, we are different. There are certain people like famed television critic Alan Sepinwall of Rolling Stone now, who is the exact opposite. He loves the scenes with the Tuskins, and he's kind of bored by the present day gangster stuff. And so, listeners, we really want to know what you think. Are you in favor of one storyline over the other? Do you love both? Are you having trouble with both because they are both a bit slow paced? The fact that we have these two timelines, it feels like the story can sometimes only take baby steps. So let us know. Write to us on Twitter at PHQ. That's the word double, the single letter P for podcasts, HQ for headquarters, at PHQ on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.com/PHQ. On YouTube, leave those comments, give us a like button, let us know. And so, Catfish, I am trying to balance the gangster and the Tatooine stuff. And to me, it's like the show is trying to give viewers the mission of the week, the adventure of the week, like The Mandalorian did. In this case, the mission of the week is help Tuskins defeat evil train. Yet the show is also trying to give us
But that wasn't the mission that he was assigned. He was actually, like The Mandalorian, assigned a mission. Yeah. And that mission took like 1 minute of storyline because all they cared about was the past.
Well, then the show's also trying to give the viewer an ongoing serial storyline of Daimyo Boba and the gangster stuff.
Just like a nickel, Daimyo.
Daimyo, right, perfect. Exactly. And so the show's trying to do both, and I think it's kind of hurting both. All our listeners probably know this. This is a famed Star Wars story of the very first Star Wars films, Star Wars, or as it later got branded, Star Wars A New Hope. That movie was saved in the editing room by George Lucas's wife, Marcia. If you don't know that story, go online, find it. It's an incredible job of editing to put the show, to make that first movie really work. And it's incredible. And I honestly think the Book of Boba Fett could have been saved if they had just twisted the editing around, where the first 10 minutes of this episode of Daimyo Boba was actually the end of episode 1. The Mandalorian normally ends with a, hey, the mission, we succeeded, yay. And the Book of Boba Fett's doing that. But I honestly think the show would do better if it ended more like, this could be trouble ahead. And it pushed viewers forward. So I think if episode 1 had ended with this exchange after the twins leave, where Boba's like, maybe it's settled. And then Fennec says, you really think so? And Boba says, no. And end on that kind of ominous ending, as opposed to last week it ended on, hey, a Tusken gave Boba some water. It's happy. So that's just kind of my thoughts about it. This episode, even though I'm only 7 out of 10, there's certain moments like the arrival of the twins and the Wookiee bounty hunter. That's a 10 out of 10 Star Wars moment for me. I don't want this to be all doom and gloom. And so we're going to talk about the things we love, as well as point out the things we didn't like. Write to us and let us know. Now, before we dive into this episode, we're going to do something we don't always do, but because this episode had a couple of just super fan servicey, you have to be a super Star Wars fan to know some of these fan servicey moments. I thought we should talk about them right at the top. And Catfish, what did you think when you saw that badass Black Wookiee come around the corner? Because to be honest, to me, he kind of looked like you. He made some expressions you make, that Black Wookiee did. And Boba Fett referred to him as a gladiator. But this is a character from the Star Wars comic books. This character first appeared in Darth Vader #1, a comic from 2015. It's a character named Black Kursatan or Santi or BK or Black K. He's a Wookiee bounty hunter, and he is giving the eye, old stink eye, to Boba Fett. What'd you think about him?
He is so badass. He is like, oh my God. I was just thinking of like classic Westerns. He's like, there's Clint Eastwood, the hero. That would be Chewbacca. And then we have the man in the black hat, Lee Cleef. I think that's his name.
Lee Van Cleef.
Lee Van Cleef, thank you. And that's what he was like. And you know what, the Bubba, that's probably why I liked him, because he did real good eye work. He gave great eye.
Oh, man, he did.
He was so sad because he was ready to kick ass, and he's like, all right, I guess I won't have to kick ass today.
Next episode. For Star Wars superfans, there was a pull from many of the animated shows, as well as Solo, a Star Wars story, where in that film, young Han Solo and his crew go to the Kessel spice mines to steal spice and coaxium from the Pike Syndicate. And those aliens sure up are here with their spice on this train. And we see members of the Pikes. And then for the first time in live action, we saw them take off their masks and see what they look like underneath. Pretty cool.
Well, the only thing I'm going to say, Bubba, is I was incredulous at this point. I'm like, we're on a desert planet and they're going to talk about spice. I'm like, come on.
I really wish that Frank Herbert hadn't stolen from George Lucas.
I completely agree. Stolen.
And then Catfish, once again, we're going to dive into this episode and break it down like you wouldn't believe. But we do have to talk about this thing that everybody's talking about, the deepest of deep cuts for Star Wars superfans. And that is in Star Wars A New Hope, the movie that started it all back in 1977. There's a famous cutscene of Tashi Station on Tatooine and characters Cammy Marstrap and Leia's fixer Lone Osner. And so why was this scene filmed for the 1977 film, and why was it cut? Well, it was filmed because George Lucas kept getting notes from the studio when he had written Star Wars and was filming Star Wars. They're like, your hero of your movie, who at this time was named Luke Starkiller, I should point out. But they're like, the hero of the movie, Luke, doesn't appear until 24 minutes into the film. And so the studio gave George Lucas this notes, and he's trying to appease them. And so he wrote this scene of Luke down at a moisture evaporator on Tatooine. And he notices something up in the sky. He looks through binoculars, and he sees the opening scene of the movie, the Imperial Star Destroyer attacking Princess Leia's ship. So then Luke jumps in his land speeder. He goes to Tashi Stations, and he runs into some friends, Biggs, Fixer, and Cammy. He wants them to go outside and look at this space battle. But by that point, the Empire has taken over Princess Leia's ship. They've killed all those people. And so so the people on the ground with Luke don't see anything. They mock Luke, Fixer and Cammy do. And later in this cutscene, Luke talks to Biggs, and Biggs says, I'm going to join the rebellion. And so it kind of sets up the universe more. It obviously slowed the film down. The film didn't need Luke earlier.
I can tell you why it was cut, Bubba, because you had me watch it before this, and it is boring and extremely poorly acted.
That is very insulting to Mark Hamill. No, I'm kidding.
Mark Hamill, who was, I think as all would admit at this point, a very novice actor, was like Laurence Olivier compared to the other two people in this scene.
Oh, boy. Well, here, all these years later, these characters of Cammy and Fixer finally get to appear in Star Wars television in the deepest of deep cuts for the Star Wars superfans. And Tashi Station finally made it to live-action Star Wars. It's a fun little Easter egg that you don't need to know it to enjoy the scene of Boba going into a local hangout and busting heads, but it's a fun little Easter egg there for all the fans.
Weirdly, Bubba, these things that are the fan service, they are none of the things that I had the catfish questions about. So we still have plenty of catfish questions about tonight's episode.
Thank goodness. Hey, let's do a little bit of housekeeping before we jump into this episode. Listeners, we always talk about prizes that we want to give to you, double L's.
Yeah, double L's?
Loyal listeners of the podcast. And so what we've been saying is that you can listen to us. You download this podcast on so many apps, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Audible. Stitcher. There are millions of them. And so all we ask you to do is send us a screenshot that show you're subscribed, and we're going to enter you to win a contest. And this year we're giving away your choice. You get to choose which of these 3 awesome T-shirts that we're going to give away. Very fun designs. We're going to put them out on our Facebook page, facebook.com/PHQ, and you can see and pick which one you want. And we're going to have a drawing for 3 winners at the end of the season. You just got to send us a screenshot that you are subscribed. And we got one this week from our good friend at Dooley's Left Legs on Twitter.
Man, he is a deep cut loyal listener way back to the Joffrey podcast days.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, just in case you had any doubts I was following you, we had no doubts. No. I want to be in the hat. It's been at least 2 years since I won anything.
Oh, man. No wonder he's a loyal listener.
I'm really enjoying the show and the podcast. First episode, 7.5 double M's.
Wait, double M's?
Yeah, Mayor's Messenger in honor of Bubba's cameo.
Oh, he said I looked like the Mayor's Major Domo actor, Dave Pasquazi.
Oh, hell yes.
Which I kind of did before I put on the COVID-19 pounds in this pandemic.
Love it. Love it.
And I should also point out, we have thousands of downloads on our podcast. YouTube, we put them there for any people who like watching YouTube. Those numbers seem pretty low, but hey, if you do like listening to us on YouTube, please subscribe. We currently have 1,841 subscribers, and we're trying to get to 2,000 by the end of the Book of Boba Fett. That means we're
159.
159 away from 2,000. So please go to YouTube, subscribe. You can find us on youtube.com/C/P Media. That's youtube.com/C for channel P Media. And if you go there, you will see brief cameos from your podcast hosts, which will make you want to subscribe and then cover the screen with something else while you watch on YouTube.
Just however you listen to YouTube, just listen. Don't watch.
All right, Catfish, we've held off long enough. The Tribes of Tatooine are calling. The episode has these 2 timelines. Which one do you want to start with? You want to start with Daimyo Drama, or do you want to start with the Baccabath Dreams?
Oof. We've probably done over 200 episodes together, and I've maybe done the breakdown 3 times.
So those were the greatest 3 episodes.
I did it. I didn't split it into timelines. Did you split it into timelines?
I think we're good. In fact, why not? Because we were both a bit down on this episode. Why don't we start with the stuff we like the best, this Daimyo Drama, and we'll talk about it first, and then get to the Tribes of Tatooine, the other Tribes of Tatooine, when we talk about life with the Tuskins. So take it away. What do you got?
All right. So at the end of the last episode, we had Master Assassin.
Oh, yes.
Fennec made her choice. You come with me. You plummet to your death. So she takes Double P.
Wait, Double B?
Yeah, the parkour pud back to Boba.
Yes.
He doesn't want to speak, so Boba threatens to cut his head off. And you know, Boba, I really like how he's following through on last episode when he said he'd rather have people respect him instead of fear. So this is a real respect instead of fear move here. I'm going to cut your head off. You'll respect him.
Right, you'll respect me right before the knife hits your neck.
So 88, who's apparently an assassin robot and a history major, says this guy's an assassin of the Night Wind and therefore fears no man. So they send him down to the Double B.
Wait, Double B?
The basement baddie, the Rancor, immediately he gives it up. But the joke's on him, Bubba.
What? 5 years earlier, Luke did kill him in the Rancor in Return of the Jedi. So they haven't restocked their Rancor supply.
Oh, damn. He's on a long vacation.
I know. He got the permanent vacation.
So he gives it up and he says it was the mayor who sent him. And Bubba, that is a triple C.
Wait, triple C?
Yeah, catfish, correct call. I called it last week. Also, not only was it a correct call, it was the very most obvious call. So it's kind of a letdown.
We are going to talk about the later seeds, which might put some question to this triple C, correct?
That we will. And that'll be interesting because I don't know whether well, whatever. We'll figure it out.
Okay, sure.
So then we go to, as you called it, Boba Fett visits the DMV. We've got a functionary there. The functionary recognized, hey, he's one of my Boyle cousins from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Wait, this guy with the mustache at the
guy with
mayor's
the
reception
mustache and
desk?
the long hair was a fellow Boyle in the game of Boyles in the last season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He was the Boyle. He was the one who liked to give head jobs, which of course is rubbing heads. So that was a fun little bit. Again, part of the reason why I'm guessing that both of us like the modern one is there's lots of good bits in it. Not so much in the past. So
well, it's just more talking. The Tuskins are not a talkative bunch.
Yeah. Also, well, we'll get there. When we get there, Boba's kind of rudimentary hand gestures almost feel insulting, like yelling loud at a deaf person. So, all right. So the mayor's lackey brings him in. We're going to save it for later, but he says one of my nominees for the Mandalicious line of the week. The mayor is it Shaiz?
Yeah, I think it's Shaiz.
Shaiz.
Yeah.
I had to look up who was doing the voice of it because for the longest time I thought, why are they having the Mandalorian do the mayor's voice?
But that's
I thought
not
that it was
Pedro
Pascal's voice. No, it's Robert Rodriguez's voice. So there's another person doing a voice. Bubba, to do a voice on this show, you have to be rock solid famous.
Apparently. What did you think of this mayor? The toy originally back in 1907, the action figure was called a Hammerhead. He's an Ithorian. What did you think of this seemingly practical puppet there on the set? I thought it was brilliant. I loved it.
Oh, I thought it was really cool too. I have to admit here, I didn't buy the mayor's BS. Also, the mayor's like, hey, I'm going to send you on a mission. I'm like, yes, here we go. Mission time. He's like, you go to Garza. So now he's going to go back to Madame Garza.
Yep. I'd have to watch that scene again. Certainly the droids and the aliens who work at the sanctuary of Madame Garza seem to be the same ones we saw in the previous one. But I want to see if the actual customers are the same day after day. And that might be the way a casino is, where you have your regulars come in, always betting. But yeah, we're in Madame Garza's sanctuary. And when Boba shows up, he says he can see she's sweating. I actually couldn't see she's sweating, but he calls her.
Her skin looked beautiful.
Yeah, she said she's sweating like a Gumpta on Mustafar. Everybody knows Mustafar is the lava planet where Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker had their big battle in Revenge of the Sith. But I wanted to know, what the heck is a Gumpta that sweats so much on Mustafar? Guess what? There's no listing in Wikipedia. This is our first mention of Gumpta.
The Gumptas. I love it.
Here's where we find out, the way I interpret it, is that Night Wind assassin was lying. He wasn't sent by the mayor. He was sent by somebody else, because Madame Garza explains that the twins have laid claim to their late cousin's bequest.
Why the guy would lie at the last moment here. Also, for an assassin, he seems to understand the politics of this town very well.
Well, you gotta have a name to give up if you really want to keep your head. Now, Boba does not think this could possibly be true. He says the twins are preoccupied with the debauchery of Hutt. And so Jennifer Beals, hey, this is 2 episodes she's in. It feels like she's going to be a major player this season, don't you think? And there was an interview with her where she said that she and director Robert Rodriguez talked about her being like Rick from Casablanca. There's no female equivalent to Rick, and by the virtue of being a man, he had an unspoken power given to him. Madame Garza had to step into that power in a different way. It's not given immediately. It's earned. What do you think about that quote from actress Jennifer Beals, Catfish?
All right. Well, I'm glad that she's thought a lot about this character. You know what? So far, again, it feels like there are so many more characters in the modern day story. I mean, let's face it. We can't really identify the different Tuskins in the past story.
Well, there's the kid Tuskin. We can.
Okay. All right. Yeah, there's the kid and the adult. There's a kid, there's an adult, and there's the head adult. Yes, okay.
What people have been pointing out, and this is our friends at the Force Center podcast, they're pointing out that when we go to the Tusken timeline, there's a kid And we keep having these little visions of Boba back when he was a kid. And then there's the warrior, the one who dresses kind of in all black and was the butt kicker in the train chase. And Boba, for most of his life, was the warrior. And then there's the chief. And they're wondering, well, does that represent Boba's, step into crime chief? And so that could be a bit of parallel symbolism there. But you're right. Otherwise, it's not like we know anything about these Tuskins. We just call him, that's the chief guy. That's the person who beats up Boba or trains him on Cappy stick. And there's the kid. Right.
The point being, there's so much going on in the modern day story.
Oh, yeah.
And so many different characters that it's hard for me to really get. We just haven't spent enough time with Garza yet. I don't know whether we'll get to. I mean,
I think we will. I think we will.
All right. So then he heads out. He heads out of the bar.
Yeah,
We're going to see. We're going to see the amazing twins. But before we do, Bubba, I took a screenshot of it because it was amazing. There is.
Yeah, I saw this too. I think everybody saw this.
There is a robot that looks like a trash can with legs. Bubba, this is not a catfish question. This is just a general question. Are we all out of ideas with robots? We can and must do better than a trash can with legs.
Well, I think so many people after, was it the Boston Dynamic robots on last week's episode? They were like, okay, sure, they did a good job, but look what we made. We put a bucket over a short guy's head and called it a robot.
Boom. Done.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure our listeners would know this, but yeah, it appears right when Boba walks out of the sanctuary, and it is the most comically silly. Catfish, you're giggling right now. Oh, so good.
It's so good. It's almost like it's almost like someone is standing next to him in modern day costume, just doing the shrug emoji.
Look, it was filmed in the time of COVID. They're like, what's the easiest thing we could do to cover up somebody's mouth? Let's put this social distancing bucket over his head.
You're in.
Okay. Hey, I would love to listen. I would love to be in a Star Wars anything.
Sure.
So somebody says, hey, I'm gonna put like a giant milk bottle over your head, go walk around and beep. I'd be like, yes, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I do so much great eye work with that bucket on my head.
You really would.
In fact, since we're talking about this character, Catfish, is it okay if let's pause this storyline for a bit? Because I'm going to ask you kind of a big picture question. And once again, listeners, I want to know your opinion. So go to PHQ, at PHQ, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.com/PHQ. Give me those YouTube comments, hit the like button. But answer this question. Do you prefer costumes and puppets, or do you prefer CGI creatures like these Hutt twins we're about to meet? And one of the caveats I want to give to this, or not caveat, one of the thoughts I give to this is that Lucas made these Star Wars films. He loved them so much, but he always saw kind of the things he couldn't do. And one of the things back in the 70s and 80s he couldn't do is make what he thought were brilliant aliens. He always had to put a guy in a costume or a puppet. He could always see the seam. And so it was like he hated masks and puppets. And so if you look at the prequels, almost all the major aliens in the prequels were CGI characters like Jar Jar, Watto, Sebulba, the Geonosians in Attack of the Clones. He wanted the Trade Federation, the big bads in episode 1, those green aliens, to be CG, but he ran into some technical issues, so he made them in masks. So I just want to know, admittedly, we're two OG fans. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer aliens that are puppets, that are got people in costumes, like this great black-haired Wookiee we're going to see in a bit? Or do you prefer CG creatures? And now they're good and bad versions of them too, but do you have a preference?
Not only do I have a preference, Bubba, but I'm going to guess that it heavily skews based on your age.
Oh, yeah. No, I think that's true too.
I'm going to say I prefer the puppets. They had to do costumes and puppets. They had to do so much work to make it look realistic. I think about Yoda, and even in the new series, I prefer when we have the physical puppet in the Mandalorian. I just feel like it just seems more real to me. It's more tangible. I feel like you can tell the difference. The one time, it's funny, the show that we did, R.I.P. Why the Last Man, where they had a CGI monkey and I couldn't tell.
No, you could
So I
not
mean,
tell.
I think if I couldn't tell, and maybe it's because these characters are unrealistic. I mean, you know what a monkey looks like, right? So maybe if we had real Hutts, the CGI ones wouldn't look so bad. But to me, like Jabba, love it. You can see the 3D-ness of it. It's still, the CGI is still just not there.
Right. Now, one thing they would even do with those puppets, I mean, Lucas created these settings and worlds, and he kept Jabba in dark settings. Jabba's throne room is a dark room. When they went out on the sail barge, all the shades were down. That was still a dark place for the barge. And here, they're bringing out these CGI twins in a bright daylight, so you can't hide anything. I think the CG is pretty darn good, but compared to that puppet in admittedly a dark room, they're just not as good.
Yeah, again, I would bet anybody who's grown up with CGI prefers the CGI to the puppets.
Yeah, listeners, once again, we want your comments. Please give them to us. Enter into this debate. Now, let me say, even if I thought the CG wasn't as great as the puppet, I thought it was pretty darn good CG. And I'll just say, seeing the brother and sister twin Hutts, oh my God, I loved this moment so much. The fact that the brother twin Hutt, he's outside, he's sweating. He doesn't use a sweat rag. He picks up some rat-like animal and uses the animal to wipe himself down, the animal's fur. Oh, 100% awesomeness. And then with the badass Wookiee, hell to the yeah. I just love this gangster stuff so much.
It's so funny too. You can notice, if you notice a few times, that the litter bearers are struggling. They're like, "Can we move this along? We can't hold this up forever."
Okay, well, that gets me to a double C catfish question. Are you ready for this question?
I'm ready.
I paused it and counted up the number of humans and aliens lifting that litter of the twins. Can you guess how many lifted them?
Well, it's funny because it didn't look like much from the front, but then when they turned aside to take them away, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of them. So I'm going to guess an even number, 16. That's correct.
You got it. That is perfect.
Yeah.
That is, how did you do that, man?
I just saw there was a lot.
There were 6 on each side, and then two in the middle front and 2 in the middle back. That is perfect. 16 catfish question answered perfectly. Hell to the yeah. So what did you think of this interaction between the Hutts and the and Boba Fett?
Oh, I thought it was cool. I mean, I wanted, it's like, the only Hutt we've had is Jabba, and then I just thought, is Jabba the only cool Hutt? No, it turns out all Hutts are cool. They're even better when they're conjoined twins. You've upset my sister. You don't want to make her angry. You wouldn't like her when she's angry. And I'm like, I wouldn't like her when she's not angry, because they are some not good looking creatures. But it's awesome. Now, Bubba.
Yeah.
He says the Hutts, so they have a wonderful scene.
Right.
And then they get taken off by their 16 people. Boom. So proud of myself. All right. He says the Hutts, he can't kill without first getting permission. And Bubba, here comes our first double C catfish question.
Oh boy.
Why not? Why
is so hard.
why can't he kill them? I mean,
well, that was Fennec.
He's the time yo-yo.
Hey, Fennec was the one who said, "Hey, if you want to kill him, we can't kill him without first getting permission." I don't watch enough gangster movies, mob movies, but that's apparently a thing. So I went to this is Wikipedia level research, and I pulled this out for you. You ready?
Yeah, sure.
According to the Mafia, a made man enjoys the full protection and backing of the Mafia establishment as long as he remains in favor and earns enough money, a percentage of which must be passed up the hierarchy. A made man can, however, be killed if a good enough reason is provided and the Mafia family leadership grants permission. If you didn't get this permission and you whacked somebody, you could be whacked just for not getting permission. Them's the rules.
All right. Okay. So these catfish questions more have to relate to like is this something about the Star Wars world I didn't know? So there's nothing
No.
specific in any of the history that's saying, like, if you want to kill the Hutts, especially the conjoined ones, you got to get permission. All right, so
No.
they have some sort of power. If he doesn't get permission, he'll have a whole bunch of Hutts after him. Hutt,
Yeah.
Hutt, 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 Hutt.
And let me say, in the expanding universe and the expanded universe and all these books and TVs and animated shows, there are all sorts of Hutts. And one of my favorites is in the animated Star Wars Lego series, there's a character known as Grabala the Hutt, who is voiced by the actor Dana Snyder, who many of you may know from Aqua Teen Hunger Force, who is the voice of the character Master Shake. It's still his voice. He doesn't change his voice. It's just Master Shake as an English-speaking Hutt who's got that same silliness that Master Shake did, and that's real fun. So if these downtimes between Star Wars shows, if you want a good Star Wars laugh, check out those Star Wars Lego series and look for Grabala the Hutt.
All right. There can be only none. That's somebody else. But okay, all right. So now we're gonna go into Boba Dreams.
Oh man, brother.
Boo. All right, so we get some what I like to call double T.
Double T.
Yeah, Tusken training, which includes some double B.
Double B.
Yeah, Boba bonking. I was gonna say Boba bitch slapping, but then I thought to myself, Bubba, I don't think saying bitch slapping is appropriate anymore. So we're gonna edit that out. These Tuskins, Bubba, do not know how to hide when the train comes, as we said. This is also known as natural selection and also known as Tusken trimming.
Oh, a double T. Okay.
A double T. So, Bubba, this came up with one of my other catfish questions.
All right.
Which you answered partially already. I'm like, what is this train doing? And why can't they hide better from it? So...
Okay, so what is the train doing? So based on just the show, this isn't any expanded universe knowledge that I have, but based just on what the show does, is they are transporting illegal narcotics, this spice. They're trying to make it kind of relatable. So in our world, a lot of times drugs aren't flown in planes because that might be easier to track or apprehend from marshals and such, so drugs have to come in different ways. So, this is just assuming. But you would assume maybe there's something like that even on a backwater planet like Tatooine. You don't want to get robbed by other gangsters. And so if you're the Pike Syndicate, you have this giant speeder that is shaped like a train to move your illegal narcotics around. That is just a guess, but that is not something from Star Wars. That's what I'm assuming why they set this up.
Now, if you're on a train and no one can really attack you, I don't know why you would attack anybody else. It would seem like it would just sort of anger them eventually. But I guess they figure, why not? They're bored on a train. Let's take some target practice.
Well, what if the idea is, once again, you don't want anybody knowing about this train? So you see these giant banthas, which, look like big furry elephants. And you're like, well, okay, maybe they're sentient. Let's kill them so they don't talk about the train. Who hear these Tuskins, maybe they could tell somebody about our smuggling. I have no idea. You're right. That is not keeping a low profile if you're smuggling your drugs on a train to be low profile.
All right. So Boba's like, I'm tired of all my friends, my Tusken friends getting killed, even though there seems to be an inexhaustible supply of them. Yep. So he decides to go to a bar. He meets the people from the cutscene from Star Wars: A New Hope. The man is trying to man up without backup, which, as we all know, does not work well. Luckily, he gets saved by Boba. Yep. Boba is actually going to the bar to beat the crud out of some people so that he can get some speeder bikes. He brings them back. The main Tusken guy, as he's bringing them back, does the universal stand down motion to the rest of the Tusken Raiders. Please don't shoot him.
Wait a minute. Yeah, don't shoot the guy bringing these speeder bikes back. But I prefer the gangster stuff to this Tusken time. But this Tusken time does have little funny moments. So I loved when he brought the speeder bikes back. And the tribe suddenly thinks, well, what should we do? Well, what do we do anytime we see these off-worlders here? Let's just beat this crap up. Let's just kick these swoop bikes. I love it.
I thought it was Jabba time. Let's just for scrap parts.
No, they may have been doing that too, but there's no, they're not subtle. They're like, let's break it apart. And if something useful falls out, that's great.
Now, Bubba, this comes where this is a serious catfish question.
Okay. Let's hear it.
All right. So there's like three questions. So let me just ask all three and then you can answer it. Okay.
All right.
Have you ever seen a Tusken without the masks and the cloth? Or is that what they look like? I don't think so. Are those horns theirs or a part of their covering? And if they're wearing all this covering, presumably because of the desert, why doesn't Boba need it? So there are three catfish questions to answer.
Well, I'll answer your final question first, if that's okay. So,
Yep.
why isn't Boba wearing all that stuff, still wearing this jumpsuit that literally was in the Sarlacc's belly with him? Really kind of rank probably at this point. And it's mainly because Boba doesn't need other stuff. He's a bald man in the desert. Why would he need anything to cover his head?
Completely correct. Okay,
With
good.
twin sons. Okay, so have we seen Tuskins without their masks and their kind of wraps and bandage and clothing? Not in any live action Star Wars or in any animated shows that I've seen. I would imagine in this world of all of these comic books and graphic novels and these type of things, I would imagine possibly somebody's done that in the past, but I actually went looking online and I couldn't find it. So that may be one of the things we'll never see these creatures without their protective bandages and clothing and stuff. I have never seen one, and if it has come up, it's been in what I would call very expanded universe material.
All right, so then we assume there's a little metallic horns, though, then part of their protective gear slash just their hip style.
It could be that they're animals with horns on their heads, but that they, even the horn you don't want out in the blistering sun and it could damage them. Because as I explained in this episode, they've been around this planet since there used to be oceans on this planet. So, you got to protect yourself. Cover up when you're outside.
Yeah, unless you're Boba, of course.
SPF 30.
He's fine. All right, so Boba brings them into whatever century it is at the time by teaching them how to ride these.
Now, what were there funny moments in this? I thought there was they may have been the most well done or overdone jokes, but okay, get on the bike, go forward, go back. This is fun watching these Tuskins try to get to the century. I don't think it should have lasted as long, but there were fun little moments in it. So I want to say that.
All right. So yeah, that went on and on and on. Then
montage.
They finally attack the train, and it seems to me like Boba does a better job of wiping out the Tusken tribe by having them attack the train. Than they're worse attacking the train than they are at hiding from the train. After they stop the train and a bunch of people get blown off and or murderized by the jet, and then the robot. I love that was a funny bit. The robot's like, I'm out of here. I'm tired of running this train.
Did you like the design of that? What is most likely a CG creature? Here we're talking about puppets.
Yeah, no, that was cool. I like that.
Okay.
Boba, they stop the train and Boba's like, are you carrying spice? And then they tell those guys to hit the road. They're not really getting, they're like, hit the road, no water for you.
How many people on this desert planet with two friggin' suns are walking a lot of places? Boba walked to Tashi Station to get those speeder bikes. It seemingly Fennec walked back from Mos Espa to Jabba's palace, dragging that prisoner by a chain. Now these Pike Syndicate people have to walk over to Anchorhead to get a flight off-world in the sun. And they're like fish creatures? Yuck.
Yeah, I'm not sure enough of them are going to get home to to deliver Boba's message about this. Then these guys, they speak Tusken, which then I was like, whoa. Then I thought to myself, well, is this Catfish's question answer? Are these the unmasked Tusken?
No. Once again, these aliens, we saw them in a mask in Solo, a Star Wars story. They are aliens known as Pike. They're part of a Pike Syndicate who control the Kessel spice mines in Solo, a Star Wars story. And one thing George Lucas always wanted to do, or I should say talked about doing, and actually if you go on YouTube and look, you can see some of his test footage for it. He always thought he could make a Star Wars live action TV show of his own called Star Wars Underworld. And through The Mandalorian and now through the Book of Boba Fett and these films, we're beginning to see it. We've got these Hutt twins. We've got the mayor. We've got the Trandoshans who want Boba Fett to never leave in the first episode. Now we got these Pike Syndicates who control the drugs, the spice. Hey, we're getting an underworld, but it seems to take a back seat in these early episodes to Tusken time.
Oh my God. And then they send him away to die, to walk away and die. And then there's what I call some egregious double W.
Oh, I know what this is. You are absolutely right.
I mean, these guys who supposedly they're like digging stuff up in the dangerous desert, the double D dangerous desert,
Yep.
and they turn on the water. Then they're like, it's like a New York musical in Manhattan. They just turn on the spigot and then they're just dancing, and I love it. This is like hundreds of gallons coming out, and they're holding up their little cups. They're like, "Yeah, I got my little cup of
They
water."
wasted so much water.
It's horrible, Bubba. Here I am in California, and when I see that, it's like watching a horror movie when that much hot water moved. And then Boba gets what I call the ayahuasca trip via lizard, and he trips out and then returns to camp with some driftwood. I don't know where he finds it.
Hey, that's not driftwood. That's magical petrified weirwood, Game of Thrones fans.
Okay, he's got some weirwood. So
Now, can we talk about this crazy dream sequence now? Because, especially in this Tusken time, and I'm not going to deny it's happening in the mob story in the present timeline, but even with Tusken, we are hitting a lot of kind of classic tropes. And maybe this is a bit of a classic trope where the outsider who's hanging with the indigenous people has to go on kind of this mystic quest to be reborn in their ways and truly be accepted. That said, I don't mind when Star Wars gets weird, and I loved the weirdness of this dream sequence. I love going up to the tree and the red, possibly Jawa eyes, and the tree hugging him like the Sarlacc hugged him in its belly. I absolutely love that the desert and sand was blending with the water of Boba's homeworld of Kamino. The shot of baby Boba, young Boba, looking out as we assume his father, Jango Fett, flies away in his spaceship. You know, that stuff, I'd rather have more of that than a 5-minute montage of this is how you ride the swoop speeder bike. So I enjoyed that bit of trip out. What did you think? Were you like,
Well,
just get on with it?
I can see that too, and I maybe if it had been earlier or separate, I just by this point nothing about the storyline interested me. I don't know why. It just seems so rote to me. And
well, it feels like, don't you think? And there's a little bit more to this story, but it feels like I think we're going to be with Tuskins the whole season. I think Tuskins are in every episode. What do you think?
Yeah, well, yeah. Sadly, I agree with you, and that's why my excitement from last week, where it felt like we got a little bit of it, I thought, okay, we're done. We got all we need from the past. And looking back on it, obviously, we need a little more. But I feel like we're done now. But
I would love that to
I
be
agree
true
with you. I don't think we are done.
Well, wrap up the storyline. What happened?
All right, they celebrate. There's somehow after like 75 Tusken Raiders dying, there are still 75 in camp, or actually
That's what you
like
need.
30.
It's math.
Boba gets the double R, Bubba.
Double R?
Yeah, Raider rep.
Oh, I always thought you were going to go Raider Rave.
Yeah, he sort of, well, yes, he sort of gets a Raider rap, and then he gets to make his own staff with the driftwood, and then they have a dance party. Well, first he loses the lizard, and then they have a dance party. Now that was a funny bit when he's like, whoops, I think I swallowed your lizard, when that is not what happened.
Not at all. So, this show, Jon Favreau wrote this episode. I keep wanting to point him out. And he loves the space Western that Star Wars always has been in some ways. And so this Western conceit of a train heist, this is the third time they've done a version of this. In Solo, a Star Wars story, there was a train heist where the motivation was, let's rob the train of coaxium. Last season, in season 2 of The Mandalorian, it wasn't technically a train. It was a bunch of transports with wheels. But it was like a transport was like, hey, me, Mando, and Mayfield, we're going to hijack this train or this convoy so we can get into the Imperial base. And there was a lot of train type stunts on top of the train there. Here's the third time's the charm. In this book of Boba Fett train heist, it's let's take over and destroy the train so it stops hurting our very easy targets.
Yeah, it's just me. I just don't have any interest in this past storyline. I want to go forward from here.
Me too, but we're gonna see it. So we gotta hope that they can turn this around and make this an integral part in the end game. I almost think that how is Boba going to survive this coming war of the crime lords? I think he's going to need some help from his friends. And so maybe that's why we're seeing so much of it. We'll see.
Fine.
Okay. Listeners, once again, hey, we're tough on this storyline. If you're like TV critic Alan Sepulwall, we don't want you to unsubscribe. We don't want you to stop listening to the podcast. We want you to write us, join us in this conversation. Leave those comments down below on YouTube. Give us that thumbs up if you're on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook.com. Once again, it's double PHQ. Search for us, find us, join in with us, and tell us why you like it. We are understanding that these aren't the correct opinions. They're just our opinions, and we want you to join with us on this journey.
Exactly right. And speaking of opinions, Bubba, we've got our Bounty Hunter Guild battle. Who wins the puck? This episode's debate is a very difficult one, Bubba. Okay. Would you rather die attacking the train or die being attacked by the train? I'll let you go first, Bubba.
What a wonderful thing I have to think about. How do I want to die in these two terrible ways?
Yeah.
Well, I would like to assume I'm a proactive person, right? That I have a purpose, a goal. And my goal is to just hang back with the Banthas. That way, there's always a chance. There's always a chance that they'll miss. And so how do I want to die? Hanging with my buds. Hanging with my buds out on a nice, bright, sunny day. You know, here comes the train. You know the classic film Train Spotting. That's how I want to die. Just hanging back, kick it up, open up some crusty shells, and drinking some delicious ice-cold sand water. Delicious.
Bubba, I have to say, we've done how many episodes of The Mandalorian? This is the second episode of Boba Fett.
Yep.
And I'm just going to have to say, I completely agree with you on this one. Trust me. We're going to have our listeners vote on this and decide whether they would die attacking the train and being a hero, because you could be a hero to the 75 people that you left behind. But also probably if, it's possible that either if you attack the train, you'll probably die. You'll still be at the camp somehow later on.
Well, hold on. Do I get, if I'm going to go ahead and attack the train, do I get to choose which type of death I get attacking the train?
No, let's just say if you get attacked by the train, you're gonna be burned up in the jet.
That's actually what I was gonna choose. Like, it's a miserable way to die, but there's gonna be that slight thrill of like, wee, I'm flying, oh, oof. I'm flying and I'm cooking.
All right. Well, see, this is the problem. This is the problem with us debating. We both have the very same sick sense of humor. Okay. I love it. All right. So our man-delicious line of the episode. Now, Bubba, we started off strong, and once again, we start off strong. Why? Because we started in the present, and then we go to the past, and there wasn't that much stuff. So here are my nominees. First of all, the mayor's lackey. When he shoves aside the other dude and he says, "Pardon the lack of pomp for your entrance."
Yeah, that's my boy.
It's the way he hit pomp that I loved. You also mentioned Garza's sweating like a Gupta on Mustafar.
Love it. And that's a stone cold diss.
So I'm going to say this last one is my favorite. Because
I've got another one at the very bottom. So
all right. So then this is my favorite though. I'm going to say it right now. Where he says, "You can bring as many gladiators as you wish, but these are not the death pits of Dur, and I am not a sleeping Trandoshan guard." Now, Bubba, as I said, somebody who doesn't know whether this is a blatant fan service callback or whether it's a completely new reference is extremely specific. I'm here for the very, very specific diss that I have no reference for. I'm completely here for it, Bubba. So what is your proposal for Man-Delicious line of the episode?
Well, first, let me say, I did looked on Wikipedia again, and then a Google search for death pits of Dur, D-U-U-R. Nothing. First time, first mention.
I love it.
So mine, because I like subtle threats, like, hey, send us a screenshot of you subscribe to this podcast. And you can win a t-shirt. Come on, I'm kidding, listeners. But my subtle threat, now this was in Huttese, but the brother twin, he was very nice. His parting message was, sleep lightly, bounty hunters. Ho, ho.
Ooh, whoa.
So that is my pick. I like that nice, friendly, stone cold diss. So I'm giving up to brother twin Hutt.
Man. All right. All right. Well, who cares what we think? You're going to tell us what you think. And Bubba, man, we asked a lot of questions last week. We put a lot of polls out.
Yep. We got a lot of replies. I want to go, though, to this week because once again, we put out a poll literally hours after the episode's out. And we asked you guys, what is your opinion? So we said, hey, the latest Book of Boba Fett episode 2, chapter 2 is out. What do you think? And here were the results. Once again, we haven't had it up long. So listeners, if you want to, go to our Twitter handle @PHQ and vote. Did you think chapter 2 was brilliant? Like a family fun day in Mos Espa, like the brother and sister twin Hutts. And round up, 55% said the episode was brilliant. Hey, that's pretty good.
Oh.
We had another option of, well, did you think chapter 2 was good, like a gaffy stick? And 29% said, yeah, it was good. We said, well, did you think the episode was just fair, like the City Hall waiting room? And we had 6.5% said that. And then we asked people, hey, did you think chapter 2 was poor, like Banta Voodoo? And we did get round up about 10% of this very small sample size thought this episode was poor. So, hey, keep giving us that feedback. You can always write to us and tell us specifically. You don't have to just say brilliant, good, fair, or poor. You can tell us which parts you like, which parts you didn't like. We love having this discussion with you. And Catfish, about last week, though, in our Parsec Passion podcast Bounty Hunter Guild Battle for the Puck, you asked everybody. And so what were the results there?
I said the mayor doesn't show up or send tribute, but sends his lackey to threaten you. Do you A, bide your time, or B, send his head to the mayor?
Now, I last week I battled in the Bounty Hunter Guild battle. I said you should bide your time. What did you say last week?
I said send his head back to the mayor.
But what do our listeners say?
Bubba, by a count of 69% to 31%, our loyal listeners agreed with me. Send his head to the mayor. Boo.
That means we have some wonderfully violent listeners. We love you guys. Please, once again, follow us. We love hearing your thoughts on this. And hey, you gave us some thoughts from last week, so why don't we get to some of this feedback? Now, the first bit of feedback, Catfish, was very cold. We're putting our faces here on YouTube just to kind of let you know, look you in the eye and tell you that we love you listeners. And,
let's hear it.
We got a response from Tyler Lewis on YouTube who wrote, Catfish really has a face for radio. Now that is
thank
Tyler.
you very much.
Thank you. This is radio.
But on radio, you don't show. That may have been a diss, Bubba. I'm not sure about it, but that may not be a compliment.
Now, somebody on YouTube known as Sweet Gav gave us this note, which says he liked our podcast. Great review, funny, knowledgeable. You guys enjoy each other's company. I was entertained. He said from chapter 1, he said the sand people were cool. The costumes were cool. Boba's costume cool, but Boba without a helmet in public, terrible. 6.5 out of 10 was Sweet Gav's rating. What do you think about that?
All right. Well, Sweet Gav, I think that was right around your rating, the 6.5.
I gave it a 7. I do want to mention this just because Sweet Gav brought it up about Boba without his helmet in public. The show just finds itself in an odd position, and I mean the show production. At this point in time, Boba should be, mid to early 40s. And yet, if you set Boba up as a clone, he should look like that actor who appeared in the movie Attack of the Clones. And yet that particular actor right now is 60 years old. So listeners who are all younger than that know that there's a big change to how you look, especially between your 40 and 60. Those 20 years, you really change. And so I think he's looking as good as he could. But what could you do? The other option you could have for casting is that the young kid who played young Boba, the clone in Attack of the Clones, Well, how old is he? Well, he's really only 33 or 35. So he's about 10 years younger than Boba should be at this point. They ended up going with a great actor, 60-year-old Temuera Morrison. If you have an actor who's known specifically in the Star Wars world for his face, I think you do have to take off his helmet now and again. And so that's what we ended up with.
They've decided to go completely different. I think they stuck with one way for the Mandalorian.
Yep.
And I think have gotten a lot of pushback on that.
Oh, yeah.
And so they decided to go a completely different way with this one. And I completely understand it, although I have to say I don't, he is I would say I think Pedro Pascal is probably a more expressive actor.
I could see that. I think
so. This is it's kind of in the reverse, right?
Well, I think if you look at Attack of the Clones, he was hired for a very specific reason. He was hired to look like a brutal thug who could punch you in the face and, just intimidate you just by his, stern looks in Attack of the Clones back, all those years ago. And he did a great job of it. What's interesting is because he was a clone, his character, not Jango, but one of the clone troopers, appeared in Revenge of the Sith. And he has this scene with his helmet off where he hands when he hands Obi-Wan Kenobi his lightsaber back, and then he turns around, and as he turns around, you can see the bald spot forming on the back of his head. Here he's this clone who's, admittedly age enhanced. They said the clones aged quickly, but so this is who we have. I think he is actually a very good actor who is trying to play the stoic mystery man, and sometimes he should be more expressive on his face. And so you're an actor. This is kind of a trick, don't you think? How do you play the tough guy and still convey everything with your face?
No,
how do you be Clint Eastwood, who really doesn't move his face much, but can convey a lot with it?
It is very, very, very tough, for sure.
Oh yeah. Thank you for those YouTube comments. Please, listeners, keep giving them. We got feedback on Twitter, Catfish. What people say?
We do. Endless Mike at Endless Mike 03, another long-time loyal listener, says, all right, a new episode of the best podcast in the parsec.
Oh, thank you so much, Endless Mike. Endless Mike, we assume you're subscribed. Once again, send us those guys, everybody. Send us screenshots of you subscribed. We want to enter you in a contest to win some of these awesome T-shirts.
Holly at Hunt Pants says, great episode. Miss hearing you guys. Holly, another longtime loyal listener who has for a while was winning every contest we had.
She was. Oh my goodness. It was real funny. And we draw we put it on camera. We fill up these bowls with everybody's name and we pull the name out of the bowl. And there would be like close to 100 names in the bowl, and we'd always find Holly's name. So Holly is great. She also does some great podcast work with some of the sister podcasts here on the Double P Podcast Network. Like she does the great show, His Dark Materials. She's a podcast host on that, and The Crown. So once again, at Hunt Pants on Twitter, she is a great follow. We got 2 more comments. Catfish, what do you got? Or 3 more, actually.
Well, we got at Dooley's Left Legs. As you said, he said, can I ask why the mayor's aide who came with his non-tribute reminded me so much of you, Bubba? Hey. Obviously with different skin color. Well, sort of. And dress sense, he was more fashionable. Don't tell me he was your doppelganger if not.
Well, we were both in Chicago. Yeah, we were both in Chicago, real thin back then, doing improv. And he's still relatively thin. I think he's got about 10 years on me. But when you're a skinny white guy with a broken nose, I think we all do kind of look the same. And now I'm no longer quite as skinny as I should be. So there you can go.
All right, Bubba, here's another question we should pose to our loyal listeners. Alex Zalbin at A. Zalbin says, the Hutt twins are the Cersei and Jaime of Mos Espa. Prove me wrong.
Oh, man, that is a great Game of Thrones, our podcast, the Joffrey podcast crossover. So I believe he's implying that the Hutt twins are the Jaime and Cersei and Jaime of Mos Espa, meaning that they're twins who can get intimate with each other. Do you want to think about that, Catfish? Are the Hutt twins as intimate as the twins?
This is so good, Bubba. I'm trying to lose weight and I haven't had dinner yet. Now I don't think I will.
Oh, we love that. And hey, we talk about so many shows. Once again, if you follow us on our social media, you'll hear about all the great podcasts we do. And so you have been talking up this show that's here in the States on a channel called Showtime Catfish called Yellow Jacket. And another true double L, Vern Wright, sent us a direct message who just loved Yellow Jackets. He said, "Hey, buddy, Yellow Jackets TV show is a blast. Oh, to telly. Woo, what do you think about that? Is your show Yellow Jackets as great as Vern Wright here is saying?"
Well, we're getting close to the end of the first season. We'll see if they land that plane. I think the pilot was amazing, and then they kind of slowed things up there. But, fascinating because tonight we have been talking about which storyline we prefer.
Right, the
Yellow
past or the
Jackets,
present. Yeah.
same thing. They are setting up two different storylines in the 90s and 1990s and then the 2010s.
Okay.
And so there's your friend. I'm gonna call him your friend Alan Sepinwall. You mentioned him so much. Did put out a poll saying which did people prefer for Yellow Jackets.
What did people say there?
I think, by the way, he had slightly more responses than we have on our polls,
what a son of a
just
gun.
by one or two.
If we were only hired by Rolling Stone.
He said, I believe it was about 60-40. I'm just going to completely lie and say I remember it 60-40, but it was for the past. But for me, I'm more interested in the present of that show, but they are more intertwined in that show, which is sort of a kind of a lost-ish kind of show than I feel like for Boba Fett.
Well, hey, people, this is only 7 episodes. We only have 5 more. So after this, if you want a recommendation, their Catfish is telling you, well, maybe we should wait till Yellow Jackets hits the landing of the first season. So, hey, that's our thoughts. We want to know your thoughts. We keep asking because we really do care. Look us in the eyes. We want to know your feedback. Please write to us at PHQ on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.com/PHQ. On YouTube, leave those comments, give us thumbs up. We really do care. Hey, if there's ways we can make this podcast better, please give us reviews on iTunes. I know you can do them now on Audible and Amazon podcasts. I know that people are saying you can give ratings on Spotify. You can, after you follow us, please, 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 please talk to us. Help us get on this journey, or else we're just going to all stick lizards up our nose and go to Dream World.
Heck yes, let's do it. Wiki.
For everybody here at Double P Media and Double P Podcast, my name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at Fit and Trim. That's FITTENTRIM at Fit and Trim on Twitter.
And I am Catfish. You can hit me up at CJGman67 on Twitter. And you can hear us next week on
Parsec Passion.
So good. We need him. We need him for this show.
Yeah, because in the flashback, the client would still be alive. Then you're gonna love the flashback.
The client.